Yeah. That is why I cannot understand when people were glorifying him that he has knowledge and all these things. I just cannot understand it.
This is Chongan. He is about to testify before the Gambia TRRC as the first witness to tell his story. He was a prominent figure in the Gambia police force, holding the title of Deputy Inspector General of Police, commonly referred to as DIG Operations. His career trajectory was marked by privilege and influence, stemming from his upbringing as the son of a high-ranking police commander. With his father's extensive connections and the entrenched patronage culture of the time, Chongan's rise within the force seemed almost inevitable. Transitioning from a paramilitary background to the police, he quickly climbed the ranks, aided by both his own capabilities and the support of powerful allies. In the 1980s, Chongan gained favor with Senegalese trainers, which further solidified his status. However, this privileged position also drew criticism from many who viewed him as arrogant and undeserving of his rapid success. By the 1990s, with the absence of Senegalese influence, Chongan's reputation for charm, swift promotions, and connections continued to spark resentment among his peers. When the 1994 military coup loomed over Gambia, Chongan foresaw the danger it posed to him personally. Fully aware that his privileged position and loyalty to the existing system made him a prime target for retribution, he resolved to oppose the coup. Rallying loyal forces, he prepared to confront the coup plotters. However, when the moment came, many of his colleagues surrendered or defected. Chongan stood his ground and fired at the coup plotters, but ultimately fled when left alone in his resistance. This act of defiance was polarizing. Some viewed it as an act of bravery and loyalty to the Constitution, while others, particularly the coup plotters, saw it differently. Years later, during the proceedings of Gambia's Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, TRRC, Chongan's actions were recognized as courageous. He was honored with the role of the first witness to recount his experiences and shed light on that tumultuous period in Gambia's history. Chongan's story is one of privilege, power, and resilience in the face of political upheaval. A man whose life was shaped by both opportunity and adversity.
Mr. Chairman, we are ready to call our first witness on this subject of the 1994 coup d'etat.
I, Ebrima Chongan, swear that I will speak the truth. I will speak the truth. Swear that I will speak the truth. Swear that I will speak the truth, the whole truth, the whole truth. I'm nothing but the truth. I'm nothing but the truth. So help me God. So help me God. Thank you.
You spent most of your working career in Gambia in the armed forces. Can you give us a brief description of your time in the gendarmerie?
Yes, after I joined and finished my initial recruit training, that's at the lowest level, I passed out in '83 in March, and then in 1984 I was selected as a cadet officer, and then in 1985 I left for France to the Gendarmerie Officer Training School to be trained as an officer. I came back in 1986 and I was commissioned as second lieutenant, and I was posted to the Gendarmerie Training School as an instructor.
Before we get into that, perhaps you would want to talk about the fate of the gendarmerie. What happened to the gendarmerie?
Well, something catastrophic happened, which I think was a big political mistake. But anyway, it's a democracy. At the time, our political masters have the right to decide whatever they want. And also, the government decided to disband the gendarmerie and annex it to the police. But this was caused because of a cultural issue, because the army afterwards would, we had initially British Army training team, but that was training our army. Then we went to a point where we brought the Nigerian Army, NATAC, Nigerian Army Training Assistant Group. They replaced the British Army, and they started to command the gendarmerie. And when the Nigerians came, they don't understand the concept of gendarmerie. And they recommended to the government to disband the gendarmerie?
This is Chongan's favorite question. He loves to bash the Nigerian military training team at every turn he gets the opportunity to do so. He can't hide his ill feeling towards them. Chongan harbors a deep resentment towards the Nigerians for their role in the disbandment of the gendarmerie in the early 1990s. As a senior member of the gendarmerie, Chongan had been instilled with a strong sense of pride and capability, believing his training, provided by the Senegalese, was on par with that of the military. However, when the Nigerians advised the government that the gendarmerie was redundant and proposed its dissolution, Chongan and over 90% of the force were left with no choice but to join either the police or the military. Against their personal desires, most, including Chongan, opted for the police. This decision has left a lasting bitterness in Chongan, who firmly believes that the gendarmerie's dissolution weakened their ability to prevent significant events, such as the 1994 military coup. To this day, Chongan maintains that if the gendarmerie had remained intact, they would have been better equipped to safeguard stability during that critical time.
At this stage, did we still have Senegalese officers in the Gambia?
No, the Confederation broke up in 1989 and the Senegalese left, and this is the first time the gendarmerie is commanded by Gambian officers, by Press Jagne, and I became like a de facto the deputy, although my official function was battalion commander. Modjai went to create the presidential guard and he commanded the presidential guard. And then we had Captain Sirif Mbai, who was the quartermaster. So at that time, we only had 3 captains, and Major was the commander of the gendarmerie. Yes, the gendarmerie remained as it is. We had the territorial gendarmerie, and then we had the mobile gendarmerie, and then we had the presidential guard guarding the president and answerable to the overall commander of the gendarmerie. And it was pretty good. And then we went now up to 1992, towards the end, when the government decided to disband it. But you have to look at the context, because there was a mutiny by the soldiers, and then the government decided to bring in the Nigerians, NATAC, Nigerian Army Technical Assistance Group, and Nigeria at the time was under military rule.
On that mutiny, do you recall who or which part of the security forces staged that mutiny?
This first mutiny was done by the veterans of the Liberian campaign, something to do with pay and so on. But it was Liberia. It was not only the Gambia National Army that went to Liberia. We also had a small contingent of the Gambia National Gendarmerie who were doing the military police duties. But it's only the elements of the GNA that went to Liberia and came back. They mutinied, and we were able, then Gendarmerie was able to stop them at Denton Bridge and take them back. And I think that was the catalyst for the resignation of Commander Ndaonjai, and then he left.
Do you recall which year this was?
I know it must be after 91, because they then went to so it must have been about 92 or so, because or late 1991, because I remember I was in Tokyo doing my course when I heard that this thing happened.
After this mutiny, what steps did the government take, if any, to address the situation?
Well, after the mutiny, Colonel Ndaonjai retired, retired, and after he went to the diplomatic service, and the government decided now to bring this Nigerian assistant group to command the Gambia National Army, which I thought was a big mistake, because every army needs to be commanded by the nationals of that country. The then senior officers at the time, Major Lai Conte, Babukar Jatta, who later became CDS, Omar Faye, and the whole senior cadre of the Gambia National Army were brought into headquarters in Banjul. So now you have the Nigerians commanding the battalions. The commander of the army is a Nigerian, the deputy is a Nigerian, the training school is commanded by Nigerians, and these people were coming from a country which of military rule. They didn't have the culture of working under a democracy. So what they were doing is, it was a democratic country. When you want something, we will have to go through the tender process and etc. So the bureaucracy will take its time. And these people were not used to that because they were under General Babangida. And if they wanted anything in their country, they get it.
Are you suggesting that at this stage, no Gambian officer was given a command position?
Yeah, not to my knowledge. You had General Dada, he was a colonel, and then he became a brigadier general. His deputy, I think Akoji, if I remember, was a Nigerian. And the battalion commanders, we only had at the time 2 battalions, that is Yundum and Farafenye, and that were commanded by Nigerian, because I think Yundum Barracks was commanded by one Nigerian lieutenant colonel, Farafenye the same, the training school by Salid, who was commanding the training school. So the only people who really had command were the junior captains, like Sonko and Captain Cham, but the bulk of it is the lieutenants. They're commanding the platoons, and that is why they were able to overthrow.
Before we talk about the overthrow, did the gendarmerie go through any changes after the arrival of the Nigerians?
Yes, that was also another challenge because the gendarmerie is an elite force in terms of the French system. So when we used to march here at Independence, the gendarmerie will be in front because they are guarding the president. And this is where we started having problems with the Nigerian. They say, no, the army should be in front. So this thing started. And at that time, they were the advisors. Even the national security advisor to the president was a Nigerian. So then they recommended to the president that, we don't need gendarmerie because it's not in their culture. They didn't understand it. And in my mind, I think the gendarmerie was a good counterbalance to the GNA. So the then government, obviously, it's a democratic government, it's their choice. But if I was in their position, number one, I would never get military assistance from the masters of coup d'etat then. And then you had a gendarmerie, which was the counterforce. You disband it and annex it to the police. And then what happened, which is the tragedy which will come later, is that all of us were transferred to police. We were under police command, except the military police component of the gendarmerie that went to GNA. And that's how Jammeh and others went to GNA.
In which form? How can you describe what was the name of the unit of the gendarmerie that was annexed to the police?
The whole gendarmerie was annexed to the police. The stations, territorial station, became under the normal police setup. And then what was the mobile gendarmerie, the reserve force, which is based at Fajara Barracks, became the tactical support group, which I had the privilege to command. Then the small component of military police went to the Gambia National Army.
The tactical support group, was it also part of the police at this stage?
Yes, we were semi-autonomous, but we were directly answerable to the Inspector General of Police. And here, I think it's very important for me to stress that morale was very bad because most of us joined to become soldiers and members of the Armed Forces Act. And suddenly, we become police officers. I mean, the senior officers, we understood we are under a democratic government. We have to obey what the government said, but also what the junior troops, were demoralized about it.
You have mentioned 2 important problems that afflicted the armed forces. One was the lack of morale, or because of the problems of the change from gendarmerie to police. and the other was a lack of a well-defined military policy or military doctrine. Were there any other problems that affected the armed forces at the time?
Yes, there were other problems that also affected the GNA. Because before, you had to understand that some of our officers in the Gambia National Army, not the Gendarmerie yet, they, as you know, it's a democracy. The government has limited resources at the time. They have finite resources. So there was a problem, some of them, you know, the housing and other issues. And then suddenly the government brings 60 or so Nigerians, you rent expensive house for them, you give everybody a car. You know, the trouble is starting, because then the guys at Yundum barracks, then you saw the soldiers begging for leave and so on. I think that was an oversight. So you start to see the moral problem. And also, we have to be also very honest. When they went to Liberia, I am very privileged in the sense that my father was a soldier and also a policeman. I remember when they were going to Liberia, I was very excited. And I went to my dad, I said, oh, I want to go so that I come back and have a medal like you. And he said, son, you don't know what is happening. When these people come back from war, there will be different people. And you guys need to wake up. This will pose some challenges. So when they came back from Liberia, they started this mutiny, and then now you bring Nigerians, etc. You know, it's a powder cake for what would happen later.
What was the relationship, if you know, between senior Gambian officers and the Nigerian commanders?
Well, it was not very nice that you are a national of your country, and obviously you have foreign officers commanding you. I remember visiting the army headquarters. Sometimes I passed through there to visit Lai Conte and Babukar Jata, because they came in after me. They joined about 83, but we became cadet officers, and I used to go there, and it was nice. Like we in the Gendarmerie, we are commanding our force. We are Gambians. We are very proud, and them, they are our contemporaries on the other side in the military, and they don't have command. So I don't think that speaks volumes.
Earlier you mentioned that you were very concerned about the balance of power between the various forces. Did you do anything about it?
Yes, because there was a problem. You have to remember, at that time, the army was not very big. The police had more personnel than the army. And the army had all the heavy weapons, and I complained bitterly. And to his credit, Captain Samsudin Sar, even though he was in the GNA and he later became a staff officer, we complained. We said that this is anybody who was smart enough would see that any day that the army rise up, it will be very difficult for us to counter them. But at that time, the Nigerians were there, they hold sway.
You said there was a powder keg waiting to explode. Were there any ways in which this manifested itself?
Well, the obvious manifestation was the two mutinies that led to the Nigerians coming. And also there was another problem again, because, you know, in Nigeria, if you remember, Babangida left, and then Abacha came. So when Abacha came, he didn't like the commander who was here, who was Dawda. He appointed a colonel called Lawan Gwadebe. Gwadebe came to Gambia to take over, and Dawda was refusing to hand over to Gwadebe, and there was a tussle. So even within the Nigerians, you see, that is why whatever we do in terms of strategic agreement, it has to be something durable. Because when the change of government happened from Babangida, the civilian president, and then Abacha overthrew, Abacha wanted to change Dawda here, and Dawda didn't also want to go. He's been here, you know, even he's small, but he is in charge. He's the overall commander. So even within them, there was a command problem during that just before the coup.
Was there much discussion about this among Gambian soldiers? this particular problem?
I wouldn't know, but it was obvious to anybody from a distance to know that an army needs to get a definite commander. If one commander is relieved, he has to go. But Dada was here, and then he was speaking to the government here to see whether they can speak to the authorities there to change it. So I suspect.
Did you hear anything being said about the soldiers in the barracks as to what they were going to do about this particular problem?
No, I didn't hear that much. But one thing that was certain was that, as I alluded earlier on, when the Nigerians are used to getting anything done, and it's very slow here, and they used to tell the Gambian officers, yeah, this can only happen here. In Nigeria, this won't happen. We would do something. We would do something. So you can see that they are subconsciously influencing our young officers.
To do what?
Council, obviously, to overthrow the government, and that's what happened.
Was there any talk about that during that period? Did you hear any statements being made about that?
Well, it was an open secret that there were rumors. I am very happy I saw Honorable Oje Jallo here in the crowd. There were rumors all the time of Coup, Wolf, and everybody, even me, I was suspected many times. If I go anywhere, they say, oh, Chongan has gone here. So we were all being sometimes accused of Coup, and we said Wolf. So that used to happen. Even some of the civilians used to say that there was going to be Coup, etc.
Do you know whether the government at the time took steps to address those rumors?
Well, I suppose it was a democracy at the time. You have to give the people benefit of the doubt. They are not, until there is evidence at the time. But one thing which was also another failure was that when you had the Armed Forces Act, you had a National Security Council. And as far as I'm aware, the Security Council never met, because it was important that the political masters know what was happening. And also in the military, there was a problem in the sense that we had no defense minister. We had the permanent secretary minister of defense, who was de facto, because the president was the defense minister, de facto the minister. So our civilian masters were a little bit distant to us, because if the Security Council that time was meeting, they would have been able to look at these issues, and probably there would be. But with hindsight, it's very easy.
How about on the issue of weapons? Were there any problems with that?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier on, all the weapons, even though the police and the gendarmerie they didn't have we just had some Kalashnikov and general purpose machine gun, and army had a lot of heavy weapons and everything. And we complained that, or some of our political masters, they were aware, as I said, me and Sar, because Sar was the staff officer at the Ministry of Defense then. That was why he represented both sides of the armed forces then. But they were aware. But as I said, the difficulty was that time, the Nigerian calls the shots.
Mr. Chongan, so far you've suggested that there were problems in the administration of the army, sort of a disconnect between the civilian oversight authorities and the military itself. You also suggested that morale was low in the armed forces. You also indicated that command of the army was basically vested to the Nigerians, and senior Gambian officers were at staff at headquarters, leaving only very junior officers with command of platoons. You have also indicated several other problems, and you described the situation as a powder keg waiting to explode. Did anything happen in July of 1994?
Yes. On the 24th of July, before the coup d'etat happened, we were supposed to have an exercise. The Americans used to come every 2 years and they do what we call the West African training cruise. They used to do it. They've done it before in the past where I was an umpire and Omar Faye was an umpire, and then the exercise was done around Mandinari. So we train with the army would train with the American troops, etc., and they go. So on the 24th of July, Lieutenant Colonel Salute, who was the Nigerian guy in charge of training, and Sar, who was the staff officer at Defense, came to me at the police headquarters and told me, tomorrow we have an exercise with the Americans so that you are aware and warn your units around Denton Bridge. I think the Americans wanted to do some amphibious landings, etc. So everything was geared up for that. And also the president was coming back from the UK after a couple of weeks away. And now there was this rumor of coup at the time. It was fever pitch. But in my own personal circumstances, something happened. Normally I would be part of the airport. I'll go because I'm AIG operations, overseeing everything. But the then Inspector General, Mr. Jagne, said, let me not go to the airport that day, which was the day before the coup. So I don't know what happened, whether maybe I was a suspect or maybe some people didn't want me around, because my stance against coups were well known in the military circles, So basically that's what happened. And before the president came, I think maybe before the president came, because that serious rumor of coup, the military were made to open or test their weapons to make sure absolutely that there is no live rounds or anything. And that was very bad. The army thought that was a humiliation. So I didn't go to the airport that day. So in the evening, I met up with one of the police officers who told me, sir, today the army was charged, etc., etc. And I said, my God, are you sure? This is dangerous. So what we should have done with hindsight, we should have gone and, if there was a room, or round up the key suspect. So that thing happened. The army went back to the barracks. And then the following morning, my mind was set on the American exercise. So I always leave early. I left my quarters, Fajara Barracks, around 7 o'clock or so, and then I was being driven to Banjul to go. And whilst I was being driven, that time we just had this mobile phone, those bricks we used to have. I received a call from the station officer, Anthony Correa. I think he's now a superintendent in the police or chief. And he told me, sir, there is a problem at Yundum Barracks. It seems that there is mutiny and they've had some shots. And then I rang off, and then a couple of times I had another call from Captain Wilson. He was also in the military. And he told me in Aku language, I no join. I say, well, you don't what? You don't join what? He said, I'm not part of it. I say, okay. So I went to headquarters and reported to the IG. And then the Inspector General told me this mutiny is on, but he has ordered Chief Superintendent Jawara, who replaced me at Fajara Barracks when I went to police, to deploy the tactical support group. So the tactical support group, a unit was deployed at the bridge, and we thought that like twice the army came and we stopped them, but this time it became more serious. So when the tactical support group were deployed at Denton Bridge. So, and the Inspector General told me, all right, deploy the police unit. So I assembled all the police officers at police headquarters, and downstairs I gave them an address and tell them that this thing is happening, but we should be loyal to the government. We should defend the Constitution at all costs. But it was difficult. The weapons, we didn't have the good weapons. We had very old weapons. But nevertheless, then that time, Jibril Ju, Superintendent Jibril Ju, who would later become the IG and an ambassador under Jammeh's government, was OC Banjul Division. So I gave him orders and I told him, okay, you deploy some men at Gambia High School, and then we deploy the other men at the junction of Radio Seat and Bond Road so that we can set up ambushes. So after that, I told the Inspector General, you know, I'm not going to even stay here. I have to go to the ground to find out what is happening. So I went to the bridge, met the tactical support group there, and told them the same. We had orders from the IG, if necessary, shoot to kill. And then we were there, and something very dramatic happened, where there was, so the TSG guys, one of them, I can't remember the name, he was in our communication room in Fajara Barracks, and he radioed me and said, sir, they've attacked the barracks, and they will capture the communication room very soon. So then I gave orders. I said, you know, everybody radio silence, no more communication, because obviously if we communicate, we would be, the army, the rebels at the time will hear what we are saying.
At what time of the day did you arrive at Dungeon Bridge?
I can't remember exactly, but it was in the morning, and we were there till probably 11 or 12. Then, can I continue?
Mr. Chongan, this is not a trial, so the rules of procedure are a little more relaxed than you would have in a normal trial. And in any case, the TRRC is the master of his own rules of procedure. Bearing that in mind, I want to ask you whether, or confirm that you had previously given a statement to the Commission.
Yes.
And of course, if we have provided you with a copy of your signed statement this morning, do you have it with you?
Yes.
Could you take a look at it? You obviously can't remember the time that occurred, but I want would you like to refresh your memory with regards to what happened in the morning of 22nd July? Have a copy of the statement with you?
Yes, I have it, yeah.
Could you take a look at paragraph 14 of that statement?
Yes. I said around 9:30 we received updated intelligence that they have arrived at the bridge, yeah.
I would like you to, the contents of paragraph 15 of that statement are quite important.
Yes.
I would like you to read that to the Commission, if you don't mind.
Okay, paragraph 15, I said, moments into my arrival, I met Lieutenant Minte and Lieutenant Jaju. Lieutenant Jaju would later be one of those executed in those prisoners. Came on our side of the bridge, and with a message from the leaders of the mutineers, which then was Lieutenant Yaya Jammeh, former Gendarmerie officer, and Second Lieutenant Edward Singate. And the message was simple and uncompromising. They must cross the bridge and proceed to Banjul. Lieutenant Minte and Jaju were clearly agitated and advised me that the soldiers were heavily armed. I sent them back, the two lieutenants, to tell the rebel soldiers in no uncertain terms they would never be allowed to cross the bridge. I further emphasized to Lieutenant Minte and Jaju to remind the two army lieutenants and their band of rebellious soldiers that they would live to regret any treasonable act in violation of their sworn pledge to defend the sovereignty of the country and be loyal to its democratically elected government. They should reconsider the mission they were undertaking and return to barracks in their best interests. So as Lieutenant Minte and Jaju went to deliver the message to the soldiers, I turned back to Captain Suare to affirm my orders. I emphasized that he should continue to negotiate with the soldiers with the hope of convincing them to abort their mission, but if necessary, he must make sure we can use force to end the mutiny. At that moment, I received a communication on the police radio from the TSG signal based at Fajara Barracks that the barracks was under attack and soldiers were about to capture the vital communication room for the police radio transmission located there. All of a sudden, the situation became graver and more complicated than we had presumed. I immediately gave instructions to all units to discontinue radio communication because the network was no longer considered secure for internal dispatch. I turned back to Captain Suare and then told him the new development left me with no chance but to rush back to the police headquarters for contingency planning with the Inspector General of Police.
Does this adequately reflect the truth about what happened that morning at the bridge?
Yes, and then after I went back to headquarters, I met, that time, Suleiman Bunjag was a permanent secretary, Minister of Defense. He was there, and then Kaba Bajo came briefly with the NSS Director, Keba Sise, and I told the IG, the situation is really grave, and the army are coming, but we have to stop them. And then the IG told me, yes, go back and make sure we maintain my instructions. So now,
what were those specific instructions issued by the IGP at the time?
Yes, he said that we should resist, and if necessary, we can shoot to kill. So then...
Did you convey those specific orders to the soldiers you found at the bridge?
Yes, I did convey that to the soldiers I found at the bridge, and then...
Can you indicate to which officers you conveyed those instructions?
Yeah, those instructions were to Suare that they should hold the bridge.
Did you convey those same instructions to other officers apart from Suare?
Yeah, I mean, I told you Minte was there as I read and Jajo, but obviously Suare is a senior man. So then, but now I have got...
At the time you conveyed your instructions to them, did they show any disagreement with those orders?
No, they didn't say anything.
As at that time, you left the bridge believing that they would comply with your instructions the first time round?
Yes, I had that belief, and then I left and went to headquarters.
So now tell us what happened after your meeting with the Inspector General.
Now, after the meeting with the Inspector General, so remember the police had deployed some units at Gambia High School and at Bond Road. So I just came down of the headquarters, I saw Suare, and I was a little bit confused, but I told him anyway, let's go. So we went to Gambia High.
Why were you confused?
No, because he was at the bridge. At the time I left him, I thought he was at the bridge. I left with my driver, Dembo Jata, my orderly Jane, and I believe Suare was in the car. Then we went to Gambia High School and disembarked. And there I told the police units, we have to go and reinforce at Bond Road, junction of Bond Road and Radio Seat.
At the time you arrived at Bond Road, did you see Suare again?
No, I didn't see him at that time. So now, when we reached at Radio Seat, I told my driver Dembo, he's here, he later became a major. I told him, well, now the situation is very crucial. I don't know whether I will survive this, what is going to happen next, but I will have to fight. So I told him, now you can go back. And then I told Jane that you are my orderly, we have to go together. So now we went, reinforced that, then that Johnson, Radio Seat, and the road going to Bond Road. So we were there, the unit commander there was ASP Harry Valentine, and I explained to them now we have to resist. Then we were there, just moments later, we saw the soldiers coming, and to my horror, I saw our own tactical support group have torn their berets In other words, they have joined the soldiers, the mutiny. And I said, all right, even if I have to die, I will die. So I decided to open fire and fired a couple of bursts of gunfire, and they scattered.
Was your fire directed at the oncoming soldiers?
Yes, I have to be honest. We have to uphold the Constitution. So when I fired, they scattered around, but my men didn't fire. So, but I cannot blame the police officers. They were not trained. They were not soldiers like us who had gone through military training. So I told my Dawda Jawara, come on, let us be on our force. So we crawl to this, the ditch at Denton Bridge, and then we cross it. When we cross it, we saw a car coming, we stop it, and we board the car, and then now we drive through Bond Road to go back to the police headquarters.
Just in an effort to try to understand what was happening at the time, you telling us that you stopped resisting, and yet then you decided to leave the scene. Why did you have to stop resisting?
Well, because I was with all of my unit and nobody fired. So I realized that, the next step, I'm committing suicide, I will die. But I didn't run away, so I went back to the police headquarters. Actually, up to now, I shudder when I realize what I have done. I had a wife and a kid. So,
so that is respected, Mr. Chongan.
All right.
Was there any return fire from the soldiers who were coming?
No, that's also what surprised me, because I thought that any moment they will rain me with fire. So that was how we went through the bridge. No, the gutter at Bond Road. So we crossed, me and Jane. We went back to the headquarters. I told him, let's go to the headquarters. So now, on our way to the headquarters, before, I can't remember that street, before.
What was your means of transportation?
We uphold a private car, and we just took it over. And then when we were coming, where Aladi Girigara shop was, where that street? I can't remember.
Cotton Street?
Yeah, Cotton Street. So the army, now they have overtaken us, but obviously they didn't probably recognize me. So I think they were going to the Marine barracks. So now I went back to police headquarters, and when I went to police headquarters, okay, I didn't see the IG then, but I was there with my colleague. I was there with my colleague, Bolisar.
Did you ask for the whereabouts of the IGP?
Yes, I did ask for the whereabouts of the IGP, and nobody could not tell me anything certain. So I was not sure. But you also have to understand, Council, it's very nice we are sitting here, but at that time it was a very difficult, very dangerous, and there were massive tension. So anyway, when I went back to headquarters, because obviously my whole uniform was covered with mud and everything, I went and changed to a normal police uniform, white shirt and blue trousers. And then I told all the officers that we were there, the senior officers, I told them that the situation is very grave. And I said, but me, I will never ever join a coup d'etat. So we stayed there up till, I cannot remember, maybe around 1 o'clock. Captain Sonko came and met us with...
Do you know his full name, Captain Sonko? Captain
Momodu Sonko. Yes, we used to call him in the army then Kenyeleng Manso. So then they arrived at the headquarters at Bokul Street.
Was he alone?
No, he came with a group of soldiers. He was the captain leading the soldiers. So they came, they were very rough, they had RPG, they have all type of weapons. So I stood down, and when they came, Captain Sonko came and said, we have overthrown government of 30 years, etc., etc. So I said, look, we don't overthrow government, we sit on the street. Let's go to the office, because by that time the soldiers were very aggressive. So I told him, you better tell the soldiers not to be aggressive to the police. So me and him, I think Juf was there, Jibril Juf, we went upstairs to my office at the police headquarters. So he started to explain what is happening. But at this time, the army now, they are confiscating our weapons. Now they're taking all the police weapons. They are basically disarming us. So but before that, there was a very important point before I forget. So when Captain Sonko came, I was still recalcitrant. I think by that time, my mind is still focused that I cannot accept that, the end is coming near. So we first went to, I think, Superintendent Ju's office. And then Captain Sonko told me, I know you, you're my friend. But you have to surrender. So that was, he told me, in order to have the desired effect, he told me anyway, now Suara is part of us. Langtombong Tamba, he was deputy commander of the guards, he's with us. So, and I say, what? Okay, so we went up. So when we went up,
why did you react in that manner?
Because Sonko also was not stupid. He was trying to give me a message that you have no choice. If you don't join them, you will, So I said, no, now let's go to my office. My office was on the fourth floor, upstairs. So we sat at...
Sorry, Mr. Chongan, for interrupting. This information that you received, that Suare, the man you left at the bridge to man the bridge, and Langtombong Tamba, commander of the state guards at State House, 2IC, second in command at the State House, they have both joined the coup makers. How did you receive that information? What impact, if any, did it have on you?
Well, as I said, because I don't know what happened and why happened, but at that time, my sole means was, we have to do something. Then after I went upstairs, when I went upstairs, I went to my office, and then we sat down in my office, with Sonko now is there, and some soldiers, and then now another drama happens. Suddenly, before that, suddenly Sabally entered with Haidara. He kicked the door and opened and said, no meeting, no meeting, no meeting. So we had a bit of...
Sabally are you referring to?
Sana Sabally. So, but at that time, I don't really know him because he is from the GNA. So I only knew Haidara, who I had trained, I had mentored in the Zandarmuri. So Haidara was probably less aggressive because he knew that I was his mentor. So he said, no meeting, no meeting. So I said, look, what are you doing? What is happening? So I turned to Sonko and said, Sonko, because Sonko was a captain then. So I said, Captain Sonko, you better put the second lieutenant into order. Then Sonko explained that, in the morning, that he was forced at gunpoint to join them. So now I realized that we are in deep trouble, where now the second lieutenants are in charge. So for any miraculous reason, I don't know what happened, then Sabally withdrew out of the office and then left.
At this stage, remember you've said that they have crossed the bridge. Suare, who was to be in charge of the bridge, has now joined them. The person who was in charge of security at State House has also joined them. The second in command at State House has also joined them. At this stage, having received that information, did you still harbor any hopes that this coup would not succeed?
Yes, to my stupidity, I thought that, because I was probably not mentally prepared for it. So, I thought still maybe we can do something, but it's not going to happen. So then we continue after they left, after Sabally and Sadibu Haidara left. And now I told all the senior officers there, I said, now it seems that everything is finished. But now we are in a crucial moment, everybody with your conscience. For me personally, I will never join a coup d'etat. So I say, everybody with your conscience and what you do. So then, even though the soldiers were there, then I just brazenly walked and went to the fire service, which was opposite the police. So I went there, I met, the chief fire officer was Rex King, and also the deputy was Roger Bakurin. So I spoke to them, but I was from the fire service. I'm seeing what is happening at the headquarters. Afterwards, Yaya Jammeh came and others, they had their rifles. So, but I thought that any moment probably they will come for me. So they didn't, nobody come for me, but they knew I was at the fire service. So that is from there I left the fire service.
At this stage, Mr. Chongan, did you at any point in time come to realize or come to know where President Jawara was?
No, at this time I didn't know where President Jawara was.
How about the Inspector General of Police?
No, I didn't know where they were.
What happened after you left the fire service?
So I left the fire service and went to my friend's house, Alaji Conte, who was working for the custom. So I went, but I was in a very, very distressed state and went there. I mean, I have no choice now, so I went there to hide, and then the wife received me, and I stayed there. And then afterwards, the soldiers have disconnected the telephone system, so you couldn't communicate at that time. I think until the Saturday or the Sunday that the telephone thing resumed.
But on that July 22nd, did you receive confirmation as to what had just happened in the country?
Yes, later on, the junta would announce that they have overthrown the government, and now they have overthrown the government. They were in charge. I think even it was my friend again, Sonko, Captain Sonko, who did the announcement, if I remember. And so I was there when the telephones were restored. I spoke to my dad.
For the restoration of the telephone network, were you able to be in contact with members of your family?
No, I have no contact with members of my family. But I had a lifeline that was Kopul Seni Njai, who was at the seaport then. So he came and met me. We are all friends to Alaji Conte. And then he came and told me, well, the soldiers were asking for you, apparently, because, you opened fire on them. So, and he was at the seaport. So he told me, I said, all right. And I become, I was very distressed. So now I go to at Alaji Conte's place, and then when the telephone system was restored, I spoke to my dad and told him the situation, and he told me, well, I heard what happened, what you did, and now your situation basically is very precarious. But he was a former soldier, so he prepared me psychologically. He said, now there is no way they will arrest you. You just have to be ready for that. So anyway, then on the Monday morning, this is the 25th of July. So I put on my police uniform and turned up at the police headquarters. And I came in the morning. I think Boli Sar was there, another AIG, but the soldiers are still guarding there. And then after I was in my office afterwards, the soldiers said all of us to come and assemble, I don't know, in the fourth floor or downstairs. And then suddenly the IG appeared and appeared at the police headquarters. By IG, you mean Pa Sallah Jagne? Yes. So when he appeared, we were standing there just moments. He was escorted by Sunkari Baji. He was the OC at Bara. Then moments later, Sabally turned up. Sana Sabally turns up with Sadibu Haidara. And then they spoke, they told, oh, former Inspector General, you are under arrest. I think Haidara was saying that. Then Sabally turned to me.
Who were they referring to?
No, they are referring to Press Jagne, the IGP, telling him, former IGP, you are under arrest. And then Sabally turned around and said, and you. So they grab us in a very...
And when Sabally said, and you, who was he referring to?
He was referring to me. So they just grab us there, bundle us, took us down to downstairs, put up in a pickup, humiliated us, and then the irony is that, you know, we are walking, we have been driving through Nelson Mandela Avenue to go to prison. So they drove us and they took us to Mile 2 prison. So when we went to Mile 2 prison, we were not processed or anything. We just start to, they just brought us to the prison, take us straight towards security wing number 4. And when we were going there, because I was so angry and bitter, because I trained Sabally, I mentored him, I did, not Sabally, Haidara. So I just turned around and said, Haidara, you taking me to prison? So he just turned around and Sabally said, hey, move on, you know. So they take us.
I see that you are making some gestures when you said move on. Can you explain what Sabally was doing?
No, they have guns. You know, they have rifles and with other soldiers. You know, you just move on. So we continue. They took us.
Was he poking or pushing the rifle?
No, he was pushing the rifle. Yeah, but obviously he did not shoot me. So we were taken to security wing number 4 without any process. But when we reach...
What kind of process were you expecting, Mr. Chongan?
Well, I would have expected that if you take anybody to prison, you need to process the individual to say you've been brought here, for what reason, etc. There should be some kind of formality. So we continue, we went to security wing number 4, and I was so distressed. But when they opened the gate, I saw, oh, some other officers are in the cells. I think I remember Sirif Gomez. When I saw Sirif Gomez, I saw some other officers. I said, oh, well, then we have company. So I was taken to cell number 13, I think, and then they just search you and just bang you in the cell. And
can you describe the condition of security wing number 4 at the time?
Well, security wing number 4 was holding the people who were convicted for the 1981 attempted coup. But I think by 1990 or 91, President Jawara gave them amnesty, and the place was empty. So these cells probably were not occupied. So the windows, apart from the burglar proof for us not to escape, there was nothing there. So there was no wire gauze, there was nothing. So we are...
Can you describe the cells, how they were at the time?
Yeah, the cells, there's nothing. It's just maybe, I don't know, 1.5 meter, 2 meter, and maybe 1.5 meter wide. And then you only have a wooden plank. A wooden plank. Finish.
And that would serve as a bed? Right?
Yes, that would serve as a bed. And then you have a chamber pot, which is, you know, in those days when I was a Sankung Sila, you know, those nylon buckets or whatever. That is what you use for your, you know, toiletry and all those things. And they give you a bottle of, you know, tap water, you know. And now we are here, and they, you know, they're just bringing people. And then later I would understand that Captain Durcham was the first, I think, to bring Sirif Gomez and Co. And then I understand they were saying, oh, check here, you know, these people, that, etc. And then a couple of hours they brought Durcham in the prison.
Let's try to understand this. You mean that Sirif Gomez was brought into Mile 2 prison, security wing number 4, by Captain Mamad Cham?
No, not Mamad Cham. Don't mix them. Ndur Cham. Yeah, so I understand he was escorting them or was part of the escort. They were just telling the story.
And subsequently?
And so after a couple of hours he was there. Because by this time I think Sabally was just mad. Everybody was just arresting.
So you're suggesting that Ndur Cham, who initially brought
Escorted them, yeah.
Was also later brought in as a
Exact-
prisoner or as a detainee.
Yes, and the drama will continue. So we were there. I was brought with press, and then Sharif Mbai and Dur were taken to security wing number 1. And then after, I don't know, 24 hours, 48 hours, they will bring Captain Cham, Mama Cham, and they would bring Samsudin Sar, and I think they will bring Major Njai, Dr. Pacha. They come and join us there. So we were there for about 1 week, complete lockdown. You don't go out. In the morning, the prison officers would just come and take the chamber pot and bring it back. And then the mosquitoes. I have never seen mosquito in my life, maybe because I grew up in Combo. They will beat you, the mosquitoes will beat you. You will not sleep at night. It's horrible. I will not even put my my enemy through what happened. So after 1 week.
After 1 week,
Yes.
were you ever informed about the reasons for your detention?
No. They just bang us there. So then after 1 week, I don't know, 1 week or a couple of days, I can't remember, Alassane Senghor of the Gambia Red Cross came to visit us with the Red Cross. And I think that probably saved our life, so that we are accounted for. And they and after they left, and also they, I think they were escorted by Captain or Lieutenant at the time, Alaji Kante. He was then the spokesman of the junta, and then he also would couple of days later come and join us in Mile 2.
What do you mean by that?
Well, he will detain. There were no procedure. They just arrest people and dump you at Mile 2. So we were there.
I think the chairman wants to say something.
Sorry to interrupt this exchange, but Mr. Chongan, can I take you back to the moment when you were transported from police headquarters to the prison? You said that when you were put in the pickup truck, you were humiliated. What was the nature of the humiliation?
Well, Chair, we were the police chiefs of this country. And then suddenly you have junior officers roughing you up, even from Sabally or Haidara. You have to understand the context of the military. These were second lieutenants. They just graduated from officer school. And you take your senior men, and also the civilian people, the people we commanded, the civilians, everybody seeing us. And obviously these would be reported, and our families and our relatives and other people will know it.
Was there any physical violence against you?
Yes, we were roughened up, we were roughened up. They just grab us, dump us, dump us in the pickup trucks, and then even the soldiers who were driving were not even good drivers. It was a very scary situation and very shocking.
Before the visit of the Red Cross, did you have the opportunity to take a shower?
No, Council. As I told you, you are on complete lockdown. You don't step out of the cell. You are 24/7 inside the cell.
So the Red Cross arrived after about 1 week. You had the chance to speak to them, did you?
Just casually. I think they were just there to register us, which I want to put on record that we are very grateful to Mr. Alassane Senghor, because I bet if we didn't come there, at that time the junta were not clued up yet. If we were not registered, probably we would disappear. We all knew what happened afterwards. So, I am very grateful to Alassane Senghor for having the idea to bring the Red Cross to so that we are accounted for, so that they know exactly who is who, where, who is who.
You said when the Red Cross arrived, you were for the first time given toothpaste. Did your condition improve in any other way?
Well, I mean, it has improved incrementally a little, but it can never improve. The mosquitoes haven't gone away. And by this time we've not have the, what's it called again? I forgot the name. That round green thing. Was it Muntaiga? Yeah, because afterwards we would be burning Muntaiga throughout, 24/7, just to keep away the mosquitoes.
At this stage, after 1 week in detention at Mile 2, did you come to realize how the new leaders in this country were organized?
Well, we had a very sympathetic prison officer, Mr. Jabate. He used to have a transistor radio and other people. We also have, like Jibu Seka, some of these prison officers. So not all of them, were evil at the time. So we can hear tidbits of information that now there's a junta and the former government, they've appointed ministers. And remember, Cham and Sar were ministers. I think Cham was the tourism minister and Sar was the trade minister. They were ministers for 2 or 3 days. So, we start to have what was happening, things were filtering. But it was very difficult because afterwards they also brought some civilians, like the managing directors at the time of NTC, the managing director ports, all those civilians were rounded up and they brought them here with Mr. Toure, Bax, Mr. Uncle Alimboj, and Pacham ports, and another one, the head of social security.
Before we get to that, you were telling us that there was a radio and through which you were able to hear some of the announcements, civil ministers, people were appointed ministers, and you mentioned Samsidin Sar and Mamad Cham, right? Do you know what, if anything, subsequently happened to these two individuals?
No, I have already indicated that they were arrested, detained, and they were with us after 48 hours or something like that.
So after 48 hours of being ministers, they were arrested and detained with your group at Mile 2 prison, right?
Yes.
Did you at this stage come to know about the leadership of the junta?
Of course, I need to know the leadership of the junta, with Yaya Jammeh. I know him very well. I knew him since Gambia High School. I was his senior at Gambia High School. And also, when he joined the Gendarmerie around 84, I was an instructor at the school, and I trained him. And also, from 1990 up to the coup, he is living in a room opposite my house at Fajara Barracks. And every time, I always tease my wife when I tell him that, Jammeh is your friend, because he used to come to the house, we give him food, because, I was married, he didn't have a wife, and sometimes he always come beg for money. He used to send Sergeant Jassy, who's now a lieutenant in the military police here, beg for money, and some other stuff. We were young and exuberant, I cannot say it, but so that was why sometimes when I see him be like, walai talai, and I would drink alcohol or this, and you were drinking alcohol every day. So, so I knew Jammeh very well, and I trained him, and also I saved him.
But also, how did you perceive him as a person?
Yes, I told you I trained him, and he was always not up to standard in terms of his uniform, and he was always savvy. And
how about his behavior?
And also his behavior, sometimes he's indisciplined, and sometimes, he is a permanent plotter, just plotting. And thanks to Musambub, there were many times that we wanted to sack him. He would go and beg, because me, that's why probably he had a good one with me, because I always used to shake him up and tell him. And there was a time I think it was 1988 or so, we were escorting President Jawara, 87 or 88. And we went to Basse and he fought there with a civilian, and he was a sergeant then. And then Cox was the police commissioner at the time. And Cox, you know, it's normal that time we had a rivalry between the police and the gendarmerie. So Cox said, you know, we must charge him. And I said, no, we cannot charge him. We are subjected to the Armed Forces Act, and it's only the military police, I mean, who can charge him. So we brought him down. When we came down, our commander then was Pa Sallah, who will later become a general, and told me, Chongan, you know, this guy is not a good guy, we have to kick him out. I said, no, sir, you cannot. Because I was a captain, and I was a captain company commander. You need to protect your men. So I said, let's discipline him, delay his promotion a bit, then afterwards he will learn his lesson. And he would go on and try to explain, oh, I was victimized, which was not true at all. And there were a number of occasions when I was, you know, I used to kind of rough him up. That's why probably he paid back and locked me up for so long. And he would, you know, I mean, he would come, you know, so he was there. Yeah. That is why I cannot understand when people were glorifying him that he has knowledge and all these things. I just, you know, I just cannot understand it. Yeah.
You were with Jammeh for long. You went to Gambia High School together. You were also in the gendarmerie together. You trained him. Your view of him is that he was always unkempt and he was of bad behavior. What came to your mind the moment you heard that he was to be the leader of the government?
What is more shocking is when this coup was happening, my wife said, no, there is no coup. If there was a coup, Jammeh will tell us. He's our neighbor. But when I heard that he is the leader, I knew that the Gambia would be in big trouble. Because as I said, I knew him, to be fair, more than many people. I knew him at school, and even within Latrikunda. I'm from Latrikunda. He was living at Uncle Alphonse Tamba's house. So I knew him, and he was in the same class with my childhood friends like Usainu Jallo and Asan and Dudu Nyang. So I knew him. I knew him, but there was nothing. There was no rancor. We helped where we were able to help. So I don't know, you know, how he just turned out to become such an evil man.
1 week after your detention, the Red Cross ICRC visited Mile 2. Your situation improved a little bit. Can you tell us what happened after that?
Immediately after that, maybe about after 1 week, Lieutenant Biran Sen and Lieutenant Cherno Jallo at the time, you know, with some sergeant on the heavy escort, they came and picked me up from the prison and took me to police headquarters.
Did they tell you why you were being taken to police headquarters?
No, that time they don't. They just come and grab you. They don't tell you where you're going. So we went to the police headquarters and we met Jabate there, ASP Lamin Jabate, and Fode Barry. So they told me they're investigating, I don't know, stolen goods or something like that. You know, they were out to get me, and I knew that because prior to the coup, Fode Barry had a problem because there was missing exhibits to a big money at that time, to the tune of 170,000, something like that, where we prepared a case file and sent a recommendation to the Attorney General, to the AG's chambers, where the file.
Who was the case against at the time?
It was a case of alleged stealing against Fode Barry, that's what I said. And then we created a case file and recommended the case file to send it to AG's chambers. It was with the deputy DPP then, Fatou Bom Bensouda.
What was the recommendation in that case file?
Yes, there was prima facie evidence of stealing because the exhibits were missing. So there was a case for theft. And then now...
Why did you have to send the case file to the AG chambers?
Well, we wanted a legal opinion, but we would have made, the police investigators, there was prima facie evidence that there was a case. And then we sent the case for AG chambers to confirm whether our recommendations are right or not.
And are you suggesting that your recommendation was that Mr. Barry be prosecuted for theft of exhibits?
Yes.
Did you have anything to do with those recommendations?
Well, I was the AIG operations. I had the ultimate responsibility. So when I turned up at headquarters under this guard, I saw them, I knew. And for Jobate, when he was doing his training, I used to say, Musambu was the OC of the school. I used to say, because he was already a lawyer, he was a little bit more older. I was used to say, you know, he can sometimes go to my house, they give him food or drink or whatever. And now these people just turn totally differently. And they start, you know, fishing expedition, you know, saying they flashed me some search warrant. But what was more shocking, because I told them that I need to have my lawyer around. And then they said, no, we are on the state of emergency. Because at the time I said, I need my family or a lawyer Usman Silla, to be there. So we spoke, and then they took me back to the headquarters.
Were you
to the prison.
Were you allowed a lawyer at this stage when you asked for one?
No, I was not allowed any lawyer.
Were you given any explanation as to why you wouldn't be allowed a lawyer?
Well, Jawate shamefully said that we are on the state of emergency.
And by being under a state of emergency, you were not entitled to a lawyer. Is that the suggestion?
Well, that's what he was implying. Even though it was a military coup, a junta, but they have officially not, you know, declared that there is a state of emergency.
And what happened after that?
Yes, so I was taken to the prison, and it was not only me, it is the same. They took Press and ASP Kebadiba at different times. And then afterwards, I can't remember exactly, but I don't know, a week after, or they took me back again to the police headquarters. And this was like they had a panel. I think that is these evil NIA panels. That's where they started. So you had Jobate, Fode Barry, there was an Inspector Korta, and some junior officers there. So, you know, they flashed a search warrant. And remember, I was very worried because when I was arrested, Sabally took my keys to my office. So I was very worried that these people can set me up. They can put anything in my office and accuse me. Thank God they were not smart enough that time. So they came and they said, it was ridiculous. They said, I stole a rake and a wheelbarrow. You know, in the military, if you are a commander, the soldiers guarding there, they will go and sign for your, you know, for a rake and wheelbarrow to clean. And then the other charge was, I stole $4,000, which was not true, because there was a policeman who had a problem. His roof was blown off. So I gave orders that we can give him $4,000 from the police welfare fund. And no, I was not the only signatory. The other signatory was Commander Bayjob, the bandmaster. So they were just on a fishing expedition.
Please like, subscribe, and share the channel. Help me grow the channel so we can continue the good work. Thank you. We will continue with Chongan later.